Welcome to the Taproxy Method, creating confident learners. The Taproxy Method uses a unique combination of breath work, brain-body work, gratitude, and a clay-based program to affect the neuroplasticity of the brain in students, to help strengthen their mind-body connection, help them develop a growth mindset, and most importantly, trust and confidence in themselves. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. One way to support the Creating Confident Learners podcast is to leave a 5-star review and written review anywhere you listen to it. Thanks so much, and let's get started. If you did that one cycle every week over a school year, you're going to see a huge difference in your child's writing ability. Be sure to sign up for the Foundation course. This course is here to support you, both parents and educators. It teaches the exact foundational tools I have used with students to increase focus, ease anxiety, and help raise confidence and self-esteem so that they can succeed in all areas of their lives, including academics. It's made into bite-sized digestible pieces to help you apply these tools right away. I have found that teaching writing is one of the most time-consuming and taxing things to teach kids when they're struggling. This is really where they need to put in the practice, the time, the effort to become proficient. And when they are struggling, when just getting the spelling or the thoughts to paper or making sure all the words, the grammar, all these things are hard for them, it's just going through the writing process, which is not a, one-step flow. When we look at the writing process, we start with pre-writing or at least brainstorming the idea, writing it, then revising and editing. You might go back to rewriting and then editing again, and then eventually, hopefully, making a polished piece. A lot of times in younger years, kids get the message that writing is a one-time thing and you just get it the first time because a lot of that type of writing happens that way. But really, to go through the whole process of a finished product takes that much effort. When we think of the writing process or the writing progression, typically kids, when they learn to write, they start first just making marks at random, and then they typically go to their names, which is often in capitals. Then they start to write and spell with consonants, forgetting the vowel sounds. So something like captain might be spelled CPTN because they're not hearing the sounds, or it might even be CAP T-A-N, and they might be missing just the complex part, depending on how old they are. And then eventually the vowels come into the words, or also the sight words that they learn at sight through flashcards and word rings, and then the complete vowel sounds and the complex vowel sounds that come towards the back end. And then we get into the bigger diction and vocabulary. So there is this natural progression of writing. And with kids who struggle with writing, we often see that they get stuck in one of these phases. I've watched kids get physically tired because they're using their brain in a new way when they're doing kind of this 3-part process. And as I have them keep practicing, it usually becomes easy. Think about that first week of school, or in this case, the first week back from winter break. All of my students were just kind of fried because they'd gone from vacation, and sometimes summer vacation, or always summer vacation, and then getting into that kind of 7:30 to 2:30 or 8 to 3 schedule. And they just being in that routine every day, the first week or two is always just kind of a shock to the system in general. But this 3-part process of writing is part of the reading program that I'm currently filming, and it uses 10, 11 distinct tools that help teach directly to kids gaps in knowledge, in spelling knowledge, reading knowledge, writing knowledge, trigger word knowledge too. Most effective when used with the mid to upper elementary kids who are reading, spelling, and writing below grade level. And it's meant to be that there's these multiple tools based on what your child is doing to at least hit them all once, and then use the ones that make the most progress or the most dial forward for your child. When I have kids in front of me, I have all these tools at my disposal and I pull from them what I need. So some days I'm really focusing on word studies. Some days I'm really focusing on vocabulary and reading out loud and that fluency. Some days I'm doing tracking. Some days I'm doing writing. Sometimes I'm doing clay and the symbols. Sometimes it's the word emissions and the trigger words used with clay and that word study. I developed this program kind of inadvertently when I homeschooled a couple of boys over a decade ago who were very far behind. And whenever I use this process with kids who struggle with either spelling writing, or reading, it boosts all three. So, but just for the writing component, which is a part of those 10 tools, is step 1 is just writing. I like to have kids do free writes where they are in a journal, they're writing 15 to 20 minutes, writing at least a paragraph. That's 5 sentences for those elementary kids in one sitting. This is day 1 of this process. Also with the upper grades, kind of 4th, 3rd, 5th grade, I like to also bring prompts eventually so that they're actually answering questions directly to build that skill. And I use these free writes over and over and over again as day 1 until it becomes easy, and then I move into the prompts. Prompt questions for 4th grade level is questions like, what makes you you? Or I felt grown up when, and then a blank, and having them go from that prompt, describe your perfect day, made up or real. So you're just giving them something to work with that's more specific. Day 2 of this process is only a 3-day step, is to correct their writing, all the spelling and grammar mistakes with them, omissions of words. Do they have every word that they need in that sentence to make it complete? The capital and the period for those younger students. And oftentimes kids who struggle with writing, reading, spelling don't always write down all the words that they need in a sentence. So we do that together again. You talk about the spelling mistakes, what's missing, what they needed, so they can see that on day 2. In general, I like to remind students that if they can say a sentence out loud, they can write it. If they have the idea that they can articulate, then they can write it word for word for word, right? Whether spelling or not. So, I always scaffold very, very intensely with kids to start so they understand what's being asked of them. I'll help with spelling. I'll help with, that kind of stuff. But over time, eventually they need to start to try to spell for themselves, to write it down, or else that's how the brain grows. That's how the brain understands this concept when they actually try. And then you can see what they're getting and then what the next thing to address is. And a lot of times with their writing, I do with reading in general, pull words that they misread or don't understand. But what's bonus is see these spelling mistakes, and you can do word studies with them on top of it to start to get those complex patterns in their head. I recommend word lists from the books Words Their Way to explicitly teach these gaps that they're misspelling. Again, the spelling sheets that kids get at school that are just kind of pre-made, those are not tailored to your child. They are tailored to the grade level and spelling patterns and a slow progression over the school year. But whenever we can teach directly through word study, directly through their spelling mistakes, directly through their reading mistakes, your kids are going to grow exponentially. The gap between what they know and don't know will close quicker than when it's more of a generalized type of way. So all of these tools that will be in the reading program and also with the writing component will be tools that go directly to the gaps in knowledge. This isn't part of this 3-part writing process, but it's a bonus, another way to directly fill in gaps when it comes to both reading and spelling mistakes. But really, day 1 is a free write or a prompt, 15 to 20 minutes, getting your kid to be able to sit and write a paragraph at least. I mean, ideally for the older kids, a page, a couple paragraphs in one sitting, getting them focused, one task at a time. So that's day 1. Day 2 is correcting the mistakes with them. They can see what you're doing, what is missing, having a conversation so that can really sit with them. And then day 3 is having your child rewrite the entire paragraph, the story, the passage, whatever they wrote, correcting all the mistakes that they made. When kids are tracking their own mistakes, when kids are correcting their own writing over and over and over again, this is where they make progress. And when I do this with kids, especially those like 3rd, 4th graders, 5th graders for the first time, their eyes kind of glaze over. It's so taxing because it's physically taxing with the writing. Pencil to paper, I'm going to recommend, not on a computer yet. It's physically taxing for the body and brain to do this in one sitting if they're not used to it. If they don't do enough journal writing at school, which is what I'm finding across the board in general. And the first few times they do this 3-step, 3-day cycle, different days, not all on one day, they get really, really tired. But then over time, it gets easier. With one of the kids that I'd done this recently with, or over the last semester, she started with a paragraph and that was hard, and now she's writing full pages that are being corrected, and it's way easier. So we just have to show kids that they're capable. So day 1 is the actual free write, the writing to the prompt, sitting down, focused time, 15 to 20 minutes. Day 2 is correcting all of the spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, omissions of words, making sure what they meant to say is on the page, maybe even extending some of their thoughts, like a concluding sentence, and just getting that polished up, the editing. And then day 3 is them rewriting that with all of that input. And I swear, if you did that one cycle every week over school year, you're going to see a huge difference in your child's writing ability, spelling, the mechanics of writing, their letters, the shapes and actually the size of them, the ease of the physicality of it. You will see a drastic change by doing this over and over again. Anything that we do over and over again, we practice over and over again, has a snowball effect. It grows exponentially over time. It gets easier over time. And we keep doing this until it becomes easy for them. So you should see over time a positive progression in the length of writing itself, in their handwriting, in the lessening of spelling mistakes, in a deepening of complexity of their sentences, and of course the confidence that comes with being proficient in a skill like writing. They're going to have an easier time with whatever comes through the academics, through the class, through the homework, through the classwork, because the skill is not so arduous. And this skill is arduous until it becomes easy for them, until they have the 10,000 hours of each grade level. I would argue that there needs to be 10,000 hours of just writing for kindergarten to become an expert at a kindergarten level. I would argue that you need 10,000 hours of writing to become proficient at a first grade level, 10,000 hours for a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, and eighth grade level, especially in those elementary school years. Each year, kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, they need those 10,000 hours to really, really become proficient at that grade level, at that skill of writing. Be sure to sign up for the foundation course. This course is here to support you. It teaches the exact foundational tools I have used with students to ease anxiety and help raise confidence and self-esteem so that they can succeed in all areas of their lives, including academics. It's available as a one-time purchase or as an ongoing monthly subscription with extra group support and monthly live stream. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter to stay in contact. Keep up with the Creating Confident Learners community on Instagram and Facebook at Creating Confident Learners. Have a blessed day and aloha.